Thanks, Angela. It's a joy and a privilege for me to introduce to you today Amy Alford, who is our speaker for this morning's chapel. Amy is a longtime resident of Dallas, but spent 4 years living in Montecito. She lived near the campus, attended Brooks Institute. She's recently published a book, and Pam and I and our family had the privilege of hearing Amy speak in our church, Montecito Covenant, earlier this year. She's a wife, a daughter, a friend. She's a world-renowned photographer. She's taken the pictures of people like President Bush, Oprah Winfrey, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson, and Bill Cosby. Her book, When God Has a Way, No Other Way Works, really talks about our journey of faith with God. And each one of us is on a journey with God, and we're at different places in our journey with God, and many questions come to mind. One of the things that was so striking to me, as Amy shared in our church, was the fact that her life could have gone a very different direction. And when God got a hold of her life, turned this life into one of complete self-sacrifice. As you hear her story and as she shares this morning, you'll just begin to catch a glimpse of a heart that responded to God and has been open to the world. She's traveled throughout the world, going to orphanages, going to very heavily impoverished areas around the world to do her work. She's here today with her husband, Ben. Ben, thank you for coming. It's great to have you in California. And they share their home with their dog, Buddy. Now, I think anybody who's willing to put their dog, Buddy, in a bio is just a great friend. As you leave today, Amy will be out on the patio giving each of you a copy of her book. And I hope that you'll take time just to thank her for coming, for giving of her own time to join us here on campus. One of the most incredible parts of her life journey, and I don't know how much she'll share about it, is this past year she actually donated her kidney to her stepfather, who was really facing near death. And part of her journey has been this incredible expression of when God asks you to do something, to respond with an obedient heart. Amy, thank you for coming. We're so grateful to have you here.
Thank y'all so much. I'm so excited to be here at Westmont. Am I supposed to take this away? Okay. Well, about 20 years ago, I decided to go to photography school at Brooks. I'd heard about it through my other college, and my mom and my stepdad and I came out to look at Brooks. And while I was checking out Brooks, they were checking out Montecito. And they found a house up the street here, and they fell in love and bought the house the weekend we came to look at Brooks. And lucky for me, the house had a guest house, so I had a place to live the whole time I lived here. And at any given time, I had anywhere from 2 to 4 roommates. And we had a great time in Montecito. And if you asked me the best times of my life, I'd say it was when I lived here in Santa Barbara. So I'm excited for you guys because you are fixing to start an era of your life that is going to be fantastic. And I wish you the best. And hearing the worship music and the song, I think, God, you guys are a step ahead of the rest of the college kids, really in the rest of the country. You're in a Christian school with Christian teachers and professors that actually care about you, and they want you to succeed, and you've got other Christian students here to help you support each other, not only in your walk with the Lord, but with your school studies. So take advantage of this time in Montecito and at Westmont College, because it's going to be a really fun time. Well, like I said, we had this house here, and I've always been adventuresome and kind of crazy, and when I say adventuresome, I don't mean I sit around and play cards. I love skydiving, NASCAR racing, scuba diving, bungee jumping, paragliding. Actually, I have a picture. That's just a typical day at my farm, crossing the creek on my four-wheeler. But when I lived here, I had this wild hare one day. I thought it would be really fun to have a miniature horse. And I looked in the paper, and I found one. And this lady brings him over in this little trailer, and he gets out of the trailer, and he's the cutest thing you've ever seen. I got another slide of him. Okay, is he cute or what? So the lady backs him out of the trailer, and I said, wow, he's so cute. What's his name? And she said, Tex. I was like, oh, I got to have him. I'm from Dallas, Texas. Got to have Tex. So I buy Tex from this lady, but the only problem was I couldn't tell my parents that I had a horse. So they only came about 4 or 5 nights a month, and during those 4 or 5 months, I would hide him underneath the guest house. And I had rigged up some 2x4s, and I made a little pen underneath the deck that hung out over our house. And so that's where Tex lived 4 or 5 days out of the month. And everything was going pretty smooth till one day my mom came up to the guest house to see if we were taking care of it and everything. And while we were in there walking around, all of a sudden we hear this, "Yee!" And my mom said, "What was that?" And I said, "I don't know, I didn't hear anything." So that was kind of the beginning. I was like, okay, this is getting a little harder. And the last straw my parents came a day early. I thought they were coming on a Friday, and they came on a Thursday. And I got the phone call. They were headed up the driveway. And I was like, oh, my gosh, where's Tex? So me and my roommates headed out in the yard. We were calling, "Tex, Tex." He was laying down in my mom's flower bed. And my mom loves flowers, and I knew that would be the first place she went. So I grabbed Tex, I run him back to the house, hide him underneath the house, and my roommates are trying to pull up all the flowers. They're in the shape of a miniature horse. They're all flattened down. I'm like, I'm going to be so busted. So that was kind of the icing on the cake. I was like, I got to tell my parents. I mean, I just can't go on like this. There's too many close calls. So I had him for many months, actually, before I gave in. So I called my mom, and I said, "Hey, Mom, can you and Harold, my stepdad, can y'all come up to the house? I need to tell you something." And she said, "Okay." So I let him out of the pen, and when they walked up to the house, he was running full speed with that mane and that tail behind him, and he looked so cute. And I thought, how can they resist that? And my mom walks up, and she says, "Oh, my gosh, what have you done?" And I said, "Mom, he's a great addition. He just eats hay. Him and Poodle get along." I've got a slide of him and my dog. They loved each other. They hung out together. And when I'd come home from class, they'd run up the driveway next to my car. I mean, he was awesome. And my stepdad, stuck his hands in his pockets, and he was kicking the dirt, and he was kind of doing this. And I thought, ooh, not good news. So my mom said, "Well, I'm very disappointed that you've bought a horse and did not tell us." She said, "How long has it been here?" And I said, "Oh, not long." So she said, "We're going to have to talk about this, and I'll let you know if you can keep Tex." And I was like, okay. Well, 2 days later, the jury came back, and Tex was voted off the island. So he now lives with another family that has young kids that can have fun and take care of him. So that was my story with Tex. About 17 years ago, my life changed forever, for the good and for the bad. I was about 28 years old, and my dad died of cancer, and I was holding him when he died. And that was the most devastating, horrific thing in my life. I love my daddy. He was kind of responsible for bringing me up in a Christian home and getting me to my Christian camps in the summer. And great man, loved him to death. So when he passed away, it really just left me with a hole in my heart. But him passing away was the beginning of my spiritual journey with the Lord. And it was that calamity in my life that got me on the path, on the right path. Now, I became a Christian when I was about 9 years old, and I rededicated my life when I was 16 at Kanakuk Camp. And then when my dad died, I was about 28. And I thought, golly, you know what? What if I die when I'm 57? I don't have much time left. So that first calamity, and then over the years, the Lord allowed a lot more calamities in my life, a lot more deaths, a lot more tragedies, a lot more trials and tribulations to happen in my life. And I tell you, every time I had a trial, it brought me closer to the Lord. And, you know, when everything's going great and you're at the beach and you're traveling, you're having fun, that's not when your relationship gets stronger. It's when you're in the trenches and you're going through these hard times and you're like, okay, God, I got to help you. I can't make it through this tragedy. You got to help me here. And so over the past years, and I look back at all these calamities I've been in, and the closer I've developed this intimate relationship with the Lord, But also, one thing that I've realized is that I've turned my focus on Him instead of myself. It's not about me, it's about Him. And the sooner I realized that, the better off I was. And my life began to change, and I had such an impact on my life with each calamity that I went through. And I'm still going through them. We've got all kinds of things right now that are going on in our lives. And those are the times when I get down on my knees, and I know that I cannot do it without Him. About 3 summers ago, as I told you, I kind of live on the edge. Let me show you. Why don't you show that other next slide? About 3 summers ago, I had this wild hair. I wanted to ride up the face of Aspen Mountain on a dirt bike. And it was one of those things I've always wanted to do. I know all of y'all are probably in the back of your mind going, yeah, I always want to go to Africa, go to safari. I mean, everybody has something they always want to do. Well, this was one of mine. And I thought, well, I'm not getting any younger. I better do it while I can still throw my leg over. So I found a guy in Aspen, and his name was William, and he rents motorcycles and four-wheelers. So I call William up, and nice guy. So I tell him what I want to do. So we go up to the top of Aspen Mountain, and I was on the motorcycle, and he was on the four-wheeler. And we got to the top in about 25 minutes. It was so cool. I was listening to Rocky Mountain High under my helmet. I got up there really fast. It took us about 20 minutes to get up there, and I got to the top, and I pulled off my helmet. I was like, wow, that was awesome. And he said, well, you want to keep going? And I was like, to where? There's more? And he said, well, we can go clear to Crested Butte. We can go up to Taylor Pass. And I was like, awesome. So we took off, and I saw areas of Aspen Mountain I'd never seen before. I've been going there since I was 13 years old. Beautiful meadows and trees, and it was just unbelievable. We got to a place in the road it turned real sharp, and it was straight up, and there was boulders on it. I'm not talking pea gravel, guys. I'm talking big rocks. So I took off going up this particular slope, and my front tire hit a rock, and it flipped the bike sideways, and my tire was kind of hanging over the side. And I thought, whew. And I looked down, and William was looking up at me, and he said, you want me to take it from here? I said, no, I got it. I can handle it. So I backed the motorcycle up, and I took off again, going up this rocky road. I got about 20 feet, and that motorcycle front tire hit a rock, and it flipped me back the other way. And this time, I was on an area that was so steep that my right leg wouldn't even touch the ground. And I was kind of leaning into the mountain, and I looked down, and William's leaning over his four-wheeler, and he's looking up at me, and he said, you ready for me to come take it over? He said, you want me to help you out? I said, no, I can handle it. So I backed the motorcycle up and took off again, and the third time it happened, it got my attention because it flipped me pretty good. And I looked down, and by now, William's standing on the side of his four-wheeler, and he says, do you want me to help you now? You want me to take over? I can get it up to the top for you. And I said, okay, come on up. So, great day on the motorcycle, had a blast. Well, about a month later, I'm thinking about my whole motorcycle story. And I thought, you know what? All through our lives, the Lord takes us through rocky roads, straight through them, straight up them, and you hit these boulders. And the whole time He's right behind us saying, Amy, let me help you. Can I take it from here? And our normal response is, no, God, I got it. I can handle it. I'm okay with this. I can do this. And it was just such a parallel to my life, my little motorcycle story, to what we do in our lives. And that's kind of when I thought, we need to turn it over to the Lord. When we start going up those rocky roads and those paths in our lives that we try to struggle through and we try to do it ourselves, you got to let the Lord have it. And I learned that later on in the story I was going to tell you that Dr. Beebe mentioned with my kidney. About, not last Christmas, but the Christmas before, my mom calls me. And my mom and I are like this. We are tight. We talk 3 times a day. We laugh. We travel together. We have so much fun. And she married Harold about 30 years ago. So the 3 of us were really tight. And then when I married Ben, thank goodness they adore him and he adores them. And we travel together and we have dinner together and we laugh and cut up and we have so much fun. So my mom calls me and she says, honey, I need to talk to you about something. And I could tell the tone of her voice. It was serious. And I said, well, what's going on? And she said, Harold has got some really bad health issues. And she said, he needs a kidney transplant. And I didn't know anything about kidney transplants or donations or anything like that. I hadn't even heard of that at that time. And I said, well, God, where are we going to get it? I'm thinking, who's going to volunteer for the kidney? And by the end of the phone call, I said, well, Mom, maybe I could give you my kidney. I mean, I'm the youngest. I'm the healthiest. I can bounce back quicker than anybody. And she said, honey, you know what? I couldn't bear to have you and Harold in the hospital at the same time. Well, try to imagine having your husband and your favorite daughter in the hospital at the same time. So immediately I go to my computer and I make up a prayer team of about 40 or 50 people, and I send an email out and I say, I need prayer quick. We need a perfect donor for my stepdad. Please start praying for the perfect donor. So we had set the transplant operation for February 22nd, and about a month before that, I was having a really bad pain in my left arm, and y'all know what that means, heart attack. And so I didn't want to mention it to my parents because they were already kind of freaking out about the kidney thing, and Harold, visibly, he was not looking good to me, and it was just killing me. He'd lost a lot of weight, he looked weak and tired, and it was very upsetting to me that just watching him just kind of fade away like that. And so at dinner one night, Ben and I are having dinner with Mom and Harold, and I just thought, well, I'll mention it nonchalantly about the arm thing, because it was in my arm for 2 weeks, 24/7. And my mom's a great doctor. If you've got any kind of pain or anything, she's always got an antidote or a cure for it. So nonchalantly at dinner, I said, hey, Mom, I got this little pain in my left arm. And she goes, oh, my gosh, you know what that means, heart attack. I said, well, Mom, no, I mean, it's not that bad. She said, honey, please don't have a heart attack before the kidney transplant. I cannot handle all of this. So I went home that night, and I crawled into bed, and I had my Bible, and I was reading a passage, and Psalm 57:1 came up. And it says, be merciful to us, O God, be merciful to us. Yes, in the shadow of your wings, we will take refuge until this disaster has passed. And I thought, did he write that for me? Because that's how I'm feeling about now. I felt like I was in the middle of a disaster. And I laid my Bible on my chest, and I started praying out loud in my bedroom. And I said, Lord, please take this fear and this anxiety and these worries that I have and this pain in my arm, whatever this is, please take this from me and replace it with your peace and your love and your strength and your encouragement. Help me through this time. And Lord, if I'm supposed to be the donor, then I want to be in your will. I want to be where you want me. And if that's where you want me to be, then that's where I want to be. And you've got to give me a peace about it. And when I got done praying, it was like 1,000 pounds had lifted off my shoulders. The next morning I got up, and I have a chair next to my fireplace in my bedroom. I call it my prayer chair. So I was in my prayer chair, and I noticed the pain in my arm was gone. It was completely gone, never to return. And I was sitting there in that chair, and all of a sudden I felt something just come over me, and it was like it was thick in the room. Kind of like the marine layer out here. You could see it coming through the trees. I felt it coming through my bedroom. And I even looked around. I was like, what is that feeling? And then I realized I was just being saturated in peace. And all of a sudden I realized, I'm going to be the donor. And I can't explain the feeling. I've never heard God speak audibly. If I did, I'd probably freak out and run out of the house or something. But there is no doubt in my mind that the Holy Spirit was in the room, and he just blanketed me with peace. So I call my mom. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. I go, Mom. She goes, what? I said, I think I'm going to be the donor. And she said, what makes you think that? And I said, it's really weird, but I was kind of whispering. I said, it's in the room. It's peace, and I'm okay with it. I think I'm going to be the donor. And she said, honey, I don't have any of that peace. Give me some of your peace. So fast forward to a week before the surgery. We've come and gone through 15, 16 donors. They've come and gone. And we finally found a donor. His name was Paul. He was a close family friend. We're a week in front of the surgery. Ben, my sweet husband, had offered, he'd gone through the testing as well. He was the backup donor. In this kind of surgery, you have to have a backup because if the donor fails at the last minute, then you got the donor or the backup ready to go. So I went with Ben to his last test, and that was talking to the surgeon, and they go through everything that will happen during the surgery. And so Ben's reading a magazine, and I'm kind of looking around, looking at the stethoscopes and stuff, and the surgeon's trying to explain to me what's going to happen. And he said, you need to be at the hospital at Friday at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I said, well, time out. Okay, he's just the backup. We've already got a donor. And the surgeon looked at me and he said, the donor was just cut. Ben's the donor now. And I said, what? I couldn't even look at Ben. I felt like when we were there, we're kind of going through the motions and just doing it to, because we were the backup. So he said he was cut about an hour ago. So Ben's now the donor. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I grabbed a piece of paper and a pencil out of my purse, and I started asking 50 million questions to the surgeon, writing everything down because I thought, I'm not going to remember this. I'm in shock. So I get out of the hospital, and I call my mom. She says, what? She makes a couple of phone calls, calls me back, and she says, that's true. She said, Ben is the donor now, and we need a backup donor. Who do you think we should call? And I said, Mom, it's my turn. I said, and she burst into tears. I've seen my mom cry once in my 40 years. And I said, Mom, now hold on. We've been praying for the perfect donor for 2 months, right? And I said, we do not want to go against God's will. And if I'm the donor, then I'm the donor, right? And she said, but he doesn't know how I feel. And I said, yes, he does. He knows exactly how you feel. So the next morning, I proceeded with the rest of the testing. And I knew that the doctor was going to call my mom on a Wednesday. So I went over to my mom's house Wednesday at 3 o'clock to kind of buff it because I knew in the back of my mind I was going to be the donor. My dad was in the back room doing dialysis, and at this point he was looking so sick, and it was just killing all of us. So I'm sitting across the desk from my mom. The phone rings, and it's the doctor, and I'm kind of looking down, and she says, well, who's the better donor, Amy or Ben? And I looked up at her, and her eyes just filled with tears, and I knew it was me at that point. I knew that he had said, Amy's the better donor. So she got off the phone, and she said, well, it's you. And I said, Mom, and I had that peace again. I just felt that really strong sense of peace, and I said, I'm okay with it. I'm going to be all right. Don't worry about it. She just said, oh, I just can't let you go. I can't have both of y'all in the hospital. And of course, I visualized me and Harold in hospital beds with our shower caps on, holding hands like Thelma and Louise, but it wasn't like that at all. So anyway, we go through the surgery, and tomorrow is our 19-month anniversary from the kidney transplant. And we celebrate, thank you. We celebrate every month because when you come that close to death and you have a health situation that bad, you celebrate every moment and you live every day as if it's your last. I do want to show y'all a couple of pictures. Show the next picture. That was the night before the surgery. This was the next day. Okay, that's a horrible picture of me. Flip that over. That's a little bit better. That's the next day. Go ahead. Okay, this is my mom chasing us with banana pudding, kid you not, because my stepdad had lost so much weight. Everywhere we went, she had ice cream or something, and she was following us with banana pudding. So there we go down the hall. And I think that's the last one. Oh, okay, so this is really weird. A week later, I can barely walk. Harold bounced back like that. He was at work 3 days later, and I'm laid up for at least a couple of weeks. So a week later, Mom says, why don't you come over for dinner? So I come over. I never wear red. I wore that red leather jacket, and Harold's wearing a red vest. I was like, oh my gosh, we match. It's the kidney. So, and it's really weird. We always go to the bathroom at the same time. But okay, so go ahead and turn. This was a party that my mom had called Celebrating Amy. It was the kidney party, and this was a month after the surgery. And so we had a party, and everyone came, and we celebrated our lives. Okay, let me see. And then there's one more. That was this summer. And so we're all back together. We're all normal again, and we're healthy, and Harold's gained a few pounds, and everybody's doing good. He's playing golf again, so we have happy ending with that. If there's anything I want you guys to remember, put God first in your life. It's not about you, it's about Him. And He has a plan for each and every one of you. And you've got to remember, when He takes you down that rocky road, you got to trust Him. And you got to depend on Him, and you got to be in His will. So I want to encourage you guys to do that. And no matter what happens, do not forget to have fun while you're here. Thank you very much.